Hello beautiful soul, welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna. If this is your first time joining me, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for spending your valuable time, your precious time and your energy. And my wish and my hope is for you that you get exactly what you need from this channeled information. My intention is very simple. It's a big job, but it's very simple, and it's to help you know yourself. It's to help you see yourself beyond your own perceived limitations, because that is where your power truly is. So if you are into this sort of thing, if you are wanting to see you more for yourself than you think you are, I hope you find this very helpful. If you would be so kind, and if you feel like it, I would love for you to comment, share, like, send it to a friend of two who perhaps you feel would benefit from this material. It helps to grow the channel, and it helps to spread this information so that more people have access to it. It's not for everyone, because I tend to go quite deep, but those, I believe firmly that those who are ready to receive this information will be reached, and your help would be tremendously appreciated if that's what you feel called towards. For those of you who are coming back, thank you so much for being here. I have the best job in the world. I shit you not, I have the best job in the world. My job is to help you see yourself. And there are very few things in my life where I get so excited when I see someone, either in front of me or through comments, realizing their potential. It's like an aphrodisiac for me. When I see you having a light bulb come on in your mind, and you begin to see yourself with so much more clarity, I'm jumping up and down, because that is what my passion is. So yeah, this is the greatest job in the world. So thank you so much for coming back. Without you, I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be doing this, and I get tremendous level of enjoyment when I do whatever it is that I do, share information. If there was no you, there would be no need for me to share this information, and that would be a bummer for me, because it feels so darn good. I also want to acknowledge all those individuals who have contributed to this channel by sending donations. I never ask for it. In fact, when I receive it, I don't quite know what to do with it. It makes me emotional, so I know I have my own issues with receiving. And I do my best to actually get back to whoever you are and thank you personally for your donation. But there's one specific person that I really, really want to say this to. Your name is Kelly. Your last name starts with the letter M, I believe. And you have continued to donate on a regular basis, and every time I try to email you, it always bounces back as undelivered message, and I get so disappointed that I can't reach you and say thank you for being such an amazing supporter. And so I hope you hear this, Kelly. I would love to send you a personal, heartfelt thank you. Perhaps this is going to do the job. But I just want you to know that just because you're not receiving anything from me, it doesn't mean that I'm not grateful. In fact, I am beyond grateful. So I hope, Kelly, you hear this. And I hope it puts a smile on your face, because it's nice to be acknowledged. And I absolutely want to acknowledge you and every single one of you supporting this channel in whatever way. So Kelly M, I hope you're hearing this. And I just looked at the timer. It was 4:44. I see that everywhere. Kelly, I hope you're hearing this. I hope that you're seeing this. And I hope that you can maybe comment on below the video and say, Joanna got it. It'll let me know that I have reached you personally to say thank you. Thank you. Without your support, Kelly, and everyone who is watching and supporting me in other ways, there would be no reason for me doing this. There wouldn't be this channel. So I thank each and every one of you for supporting this channel. Today's energies feel very big to me. I don't know if it's the consequence of the overall energies, collective energies, probably. And it's not a heavy energy, but it's a very big energy. So let's see how this flows. And today's transmission is all about what is your calling right now, what's calling your attention. So as I always do, I will go through 3 piles. Each one will have a certain message, a certain delivery. And then it's up to you to decide to be guided intuitively to whatever pile speaks most to you. Many of you listen to all piles and you can extract some information from each one. That's absolutely fine. So if you feel like you want to hear all 3 or one that it's calling your attention, then just trust whatever you're receiving. On the other hand, I don't want you to trust anything blindly. This is not what it's about. My work is not telling you what to do, how to do it, and what you're supposed to do. In fact, my calling is to do the opposite. My calling is to help you realize that there is so much more that you can do. There's so much more that you can do, and there's so much more that you can be. So don't take any of what I am presenting as gospel. Just allow yourself to receive it energetically through your body, because your body knows, your body will recognize this frequency. Your body will, you will experience certain feelings in your body that will, because this is an energetic exchange. This energy goes right into your energetic body. On the other hand, if you are feeling resistance, or if you are feeling triggered, which happens a lot, this is a great opportunity for you to look at the trigger and ask yourself, what's being triggered in me? And trigger is indicative of some sort of story. So this energy will sometimes, and sometimes very likely, trigger you as an individual. The moment you can identify the trigger and what story is behind the trigger, this is the moment where you are realizing your deeper truth. And when you see your deeper truth, especially one that is limited, you can then decide to do something about it or not. In other words, if there is a certain truth that is limiting you, but you are not aware of it, then you are living your life, creating your life from a limited space and in limited ways. And there's nothing greater for me to see you experience life to the fullest. So don't take anything that's coming through me as gospel. Just kind of ponder and feel it out. Okay? I always want you to be aware of how you're feeling, because feeling also tells you a story. I don't know why I want to say this, but I will. I used to do zodiac signs, 12 zodiac signs. That's kind of sort of how I started. And a few years ago, and there was a lot of people watching zodiac signs, like a lot, probably 6 times as many people watched zodiac signs when I was doing them versus this type of transmission. And I found that very interesting, because people have asked, when will you do zodiac signs? And I have massive resistance to it. It's not because there is something wrong with the zodiac signs. It's because I don't want you to be in a box. And when you put yourself in a box of a zodiac sign, then that is a limitation. Even though many of you have said, through the zodiac signs, the information was very accurate to you. The accuracy of information doesn't change based on how I package it. Okay? However, if I package it in a way that makes you identify yourself as a package, then I just limited you. I said to you, you're a Taurus, this is what's for a Taurus. And everything outside of that, I have essentially eliminated as your possibility of experiencing. And I don't want that for you. I don't want that for you. I want you to be guided by your intuition. I want you to be guided by your higher self, your higher mind, because that's where your power is. And as I've said at the beginning, my greatest joy is to help you realize your own power. And your power lies beyond your perceived limitations. Okay? So if you identify yourself as a Taurus, then you begin to wear that identification, and that's how you see life through these lenses. And my job is really to help you release those limiting lenses, to release them. So for those of you who are wondering why I don't do the zodiac signs anymore, this is why. It's because it's very important to me as a human being and as someone who shares information that you release yourself from your perceived limitations, whatever boxes you have put yourself in or society has put you in. That's where that is my intention. That is why I do this work. My work is not to keep you in a box. My work is help you come out of your box, because boxes are limited. They're good, but they're limited. They have their purpose. So having said that, let me just go quickly over collective energies. What are we collectively experiencing? I don't think it's going to take too long to see that. It's in our face. We are experiencing change. In fact, we are experiencing a massive change. A very big change. And when we are moving through change, there is a lot of confusion. We could say that humanity, by and large, is very confused right now. Why? Because humanity is in a process of realizing its fuller potential. But in order for humanity to experience a fuller potential, humanity has to move out of its conditioned boxes. And this is what we are moving through right now. Because the collective energy is one of change, and you are part of the collective, each individual will be affected by this change in some sort of way. And in order for humans to experience a different reality, things must change. And in order for this change to take place, certain things have to collapse. So what we are experiencing, what we are seeing in our 3D world is a lot of collapsing of old structures, old parameters, and old domains. Why? Because we are moving beyond these structures. We are moving beyond so that we can realize more of ourselves, so that we can live up to our potential. And in order for us to do that, we have to move through change. So you are too moving through some sort of change because you are part of the collective. What is this change about? Tell your story. This change is about releasing our old stories. It is about coming out of hiding in order to reveal who we truly are, which is, what's the word, please? Which is a powerful creator. Okay, you can look at the symbology here. We could talk about the symbology of a spider, but I feel like that's something that you can do on your own. Point we're trying to make here is that the change is all about revealing ourselves and coming out of hiding or coming out of shadows. And that is scary for many people, because if we are used to living in our shadows, coming out and revealing can be very scary because it can feel very uncomfortable. Okay, so there is a lot of discomfort that is taking place in the world right now. You are likely also feeling some level of discomfort. But this discomfort is necessary in order to arrive at a new level of comfort. When someone lives in anxiety all of their life, they get to the point where they don't even realize they live in anxiety. It's just their norm. And it is until the person moves out of their anxiety and releases the hold that anxiety has on a person, until the person arrives or moves past their conditioning, limitations, which is what also makes us feel a lot of anxiety, fear. It is only then that the person can say, wow, I didn't realize I was being this. Okay? So as we are in the process of revealing ourselves, to ourselves first and foremost, and then to the world, until we begin the process of revealing ourselves from our shadows, nothing will change. So we could say that humanity is coming out of its own hiding. We could ask the question, why is humanity hiding? But that's I feel like for another session. This is what humanity is going through, and it's going to affect you. It's learning, we are in the process of learning how we use or misuse energy. We're all energetic beings. Everything is energy. That's science. Okay? Energy cannot be cut in two. Energy doesn't have a start and doesn't have a beginning. Energy is all there is. And we are all energetic beings. Every single one. Everything is energy. When we begin to see ourselves more as energy, as pure energy, rather than identifying ourselves as ego only because ego is limited, when we begin to realize the source of our discomfort, we'll begin to see and recognize how we are using our own energy and collective energy to create our discomfort. Okay? Because each and every one of you is a powerful creator. Just because you don't know how you create does not mean that you are not a powerful creator. Each and every one of you is a powerful creator. And my job as Joanna, with the help of my team, is to help you become more of conscious creator by helping you realize some of these truths so that you can use your conscious awareness, your will, and your energy to create more consciously in the world. In other words, if we want to experience more peace in the world, I've talked about this before, we have to be able to first cultivate inner peace, because when we experience the opposite of peace, it means that this experience is a collective experience of every individual. Okay? When there is no peace, there often is fear. So if we are collectively vibing in the energy of fear, what we will experience and keep on experiencing is fearful fearful experiences, and we don't want that. We want more of less of fearful experiences and more of peaceful experiences. So this is an important time for everyone to begin to realize who they really are, beyond the construct of their ego. I'm here to do that. You're here to do that. Everyone is here to do that, though not everyone is conscious of that being the case. And if you are watching it, if you're watching this, it is very likely that you are consciously seeking some higher awareness. And this awareness is not outside of you. This awareness is already inside of you. It's in your DNA. Therefore, in order for you to reach your fullest potential, we have to go inside. Because the outside world is reflective of the inner world. In other words, it's all an inside job. Can I make you feel less fearful? No, but I can help. I cannot decide for you not to fear something. I can't decide that for you. And by the way, fear is not a bad thing. It has its place. In fact, to the human experience, it's extremely important to have. Because if we didn't have basic survival fears, we would do things, that are stupid and dumb. Even though we are doing that, the point I'm trying to make is that some fear is important, some fear is necessary. I always say if a mad dog is chasing you, be fearful and run, because it's going to save your life. But that's going to happen once every blue moon. On the other hand, if you are internally feel fearful all the time, and you don't even know it because it's just so ingrained in you, you don't know any different, then you are effectively creating from a fearful space. And when we create from a fearful space, we create from a space of limitation, because fear limits. That's just the way it is. So this is what's happening collectively. Let's go through each pile, and each pile is going to represent what's your calling right now, what's trying to get your attention. And are you ready to embrace it? If something is calling your attention, well, then likely chances are that you are ready to embrace it. You may just not know how. So hopefully the messages will kind of point you in the right direction. Okay? So let's go with each pile and let's see what we have. All right, let's see what we have for you, pile number one. What's your calling right now? We have what's called creative communication. Excuse me, let me just tune. Actually, okay, thank you. Some of you may experience resistance in your throat when you are beginning to speak your truth. Pile number one. Do you often, on regular basis, disqualify your truth as something that's not important? I'll tell you one thing. If it's your truth, it's important to you. If it wasn't important to you, it wouldn't be your truth. Are you having challenges expressing what is truly important to you? And if you are in fact having difficulty expressing what is important to you, which will affect your throat, and it will affect your solar plexus, you will effectively be living in denial of your truth. What happens when we deny our truth? We push our truth away. When we push our truth away, we deem that as not important part of who we are. But again, if it wasn't important to you, it wouldn't be your truth. Okay? So we humans do it a lot. I see this with my work with my clients with inner child, we are in constant battle within ourselves. And if we are in constant battle within ourselves, and pile number 1, chances are you are too, then what we are essentially saying is that you are at war with yourself. War will never bring peace, because it's the opposite of peace. So you have some internal struggles that are preventing you from experiencing more of your own peace. I'm saying your own peace is because you have it. It's inside of you. But it's shielded by all the internal stories, all the internal crap layers of conditioning, not crap, conditioning. Okay? So what is calling you right now, what's calling your attention, is to pay attention to how you keep yourself from expressing yourself fully or expressing your truth to the world. What I just heard was, I am not important. Okay, there is a story there. Do you feel, pile number 1, that you are somehow not important, which speaks to your own value? You are being asked to look at your own ideas around your own value and ask yourself this question: how do I express those ideas of me? Because whatever you are holding on to as your truth, you will express it. And this simply means that you're holding yourself back. We all do in some way, but this is important for you, pile number 1. What's calling your attention right now is to realize how you hold yourself back. We all hold ourselves back based on our story or our truth. So in essence, what's being said here is that it's important. What's calling you right now is, what's calling your attention right now is you needing to see your own truth and then seek your own truth. Because oftentimes the truth that we are holding on to is not even our truth. It's borrowed from our ancestors. Also, pile number 1, you are being qualified as a healer. So those are the qualifications that you are wearing according to my team. You may not see yourself as one. Perhaps you don't see yourself as one because you feel that you are not important. Okay? I hate to break it to you. We're all important. I'm not talking about the ego importance. We all matter. As far as the consciousness is concerned, which is all there is, some call it God, you are an integral part of all that is. That speaks to your importance. However, if you feel that you don't hold a lot of value, then there is a story within that that wants to be faced, that needs to be faced. Why? Because that story is what limits you. It's not so much that the story limits you, it's you limit you by holding on to some story that is limiting. Okay? I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not important. I'm not enough. Anything to do with the sense of value, which is going to, if you're struggling with your own sense of value, you're going to be struggling with your sense of purpose. What if I told you that your purpose for being here is to recognize your own value? What if I told you that that was your purpose? What would you say? Okay. I see it, I see it, I see it, I see it. Then why are you struggling with voicing your truth? Okay, so there's something for you to look at there. Okay. Mom, I just clearly heard mom. For some of you, the idea of worth or lack of worth or not feeling important or adequate stems from your connection to either your mom or a mother figure. And this particular individual, so it's not going to be for all of you, but I would say probably for a lot of you, this particular figure was very male dominant. So she embodied a lot of masculine energy. And the reason why she did that is because she did not feel safe in her own skin. So what she communicated to you in a roundabout way, that it's not safe to be you. That it's not safe to be you. That was the communication. It happened non-verbally. It happened as a result of how she was with you. By trying to protect herself, she was showing you that there is something to be afraid of. So you've learned to be afraid. Okay? You know the saying, what you're afraid of is your own shadow? Therefore, in order to not be afraid, you have to face your shadow. And that is what me and my team do. In fact, it's what I love to do the most. Champion peace. You are here to reflect peace out of your body. You are here to energetically impress upon this earth frequency of peace. And that will never happen unless you embody your inner peace. Which means, in order for you to embody your inner peace, you have to face your truth, especially the one that's limiting you. So it's in order for you to express peace and embody peace, you have to face your shadows. Briefly going back to what I was saying, lost the train of thought. I lost it. Okay, maybe it'll come back. Something to do with the zodiac signs. If you are resonating with this, you are being guided at this time to exchange your energy with another who can guide you and maybe even lead you in terms of how you can bring more peace into your life and into your body. So maybe this is talking about you working with someone who can guide you, who can be your guide, who can share with you informative information, skills, and tools to help you face your fears and face your shadows. And that's because your shadow, your fear, is shielding you from all that you can be. Your shadow is shielding you of all that you can be. Now, in order for something to shield you, there must be an idea that you need to be shielded from something bad. Okay? Question for you, pile number one. What do you believe or what do you fear is going to happen when you start voicing your truth? That's a big one for you. Voicing your truth is very important. If you don't feel peace internally, it might be difficult to speak your truth because you're always going to be afraid, right? And remember, fear is not something we want more of. Fear is something we want less of, okay? The message for you, pile number one, is practice being less fearful. Yes, easier said than done, but very doable. I remember what I was going to say. When I was doing the zodiac signs, a lot of people were watching, like 3-4 times as much. I had 4 times as many viewers. And I believe it's because majority of people just wanted to be told what to do. If you are told what to do, are you really in charge of your life? Here's the funny thing. For most humans that I've worked with, being in charge of their own life or being in their own power is very scary. It's a thing. I've experienced this many times. In fact, it's very scary. Can be very scary. Okay. So at this time, pile number one, what is calling you is addressing your own fears around becoming the person you truly are beyond your limitations. And somehow that's related to your mother. If you are this, this and this is going to happen. If you are well off, for example, people are going to reject you. I mean, we humans have marvelous gazillion stories that we are holding on to. So do yourself a favor and start identifying your old stories, particularly the ones that limit you. Now, here's the trick. Bad word, but here's the trick. To really know your deep truth, you have to dip more into your unconscious, because the type of fears that I'm talking about are mostly on the unconscious, but your experiences will often point you to what your truth is. Okay? Because your experience is always relative to your deep truth, not the one necessarily that you believe consciously, but the one you are holding on to unconsciously. Okay? And I'm being shown these fears like weeds and pulling them out with roots and all. In other words, if we only try to get rid of the circumstances that we don't like without understanding how these circumstances were created, what we're going to do is we're going to try to change the outside, not paying attention to what's happening on the inside. We'll find ourselves in a new situation, but it's going to be more of the same. So it's about releasing old patterns. And this is important for everybody. This is what humanity is working through, releasing old karma, which is tied to patterns. And this is what you, pile number one, are being urged to. Maybe that's a strong word, but you're being urged to look at. Brilliance. Let me just see what this message wants to say to me. I don't know what this means, but what I want to say is, if this resonates with you, you have a certain awareness. This awareness is different than that of other people. And because of that, you feel different and perhaps even sometimes very alone. And I wonder if you are actually in denial of this, if you are denying yourself of this awareness. I don't know how else to say it. It's a certain quality I'm picking up. Okay? What I want to say is this. Don't be so afraid just being you. Now remember, I was talking about a possibility of a mother who was afraid of being herself, being in her own skin. And you've learned to be also afraid of being you. So you have cultivated this new persona in order to feel safe. But you are more than your persona. You are more than your ego. And you are at a space of your own human evolution and your spiritual evolution where you are, when your soul is desiring to express more of itself. And this is you. You are a soul. Your soul is desiring to express more of itself through you. Okay? And in order for that to happen, you have to release your judgments you have about yourself and others. So releasing judgments is a big one. Perhaps you judge yourself harshly. Perhaps you judge other people. I used to judge all the time. It's the environment I came from. And last year or a couple of years ago, I made a commitment to myself that I'm going to do my darnest to judge less. And it has to start with myself. Pile number one, how critical are you of yourself? Do you believe there's something wrong with you? Do you believe that you are not capable? Do you believe that you are undeserving of love, for example? And this wouldn't be something that's conscious. This would be something that would be fairly unconscious. But it will be reflected in your life. If you are lacking something in your life, perhaps there's a part of you that believes that you're undeserving of whatever it is that you want. Okay? I talk about deserving a lot, and it's a human thing. We humans invented the idea of undeservingness. As far as the consciousness is concerned, the higher consciousness is concerned, the whole idea of undeservingness doesn't even exist. It just, you're part of all that is. Some call it God. So it looks like pile number 1, there's a shadow of undeserving, which also will bring about ways in which you neglect yourself. Perhaps one of the ways that you neglect yourself is you don't take care of your body. You don't take care of your nutritional needs. You don't take care of your emotional needs. You don't take care of your mental needs. Physical, whatever it is, if you don't deem yourself as valuable, you're going to at least have a tendency to not take care of yourself as best as you could. Here's the thing. When you take care of you, when you are the best version of yourself to you, the entire world benefits. The entire world benefits. Why? Because we're all connected. So the best thing you can do for the rest of humanity, your gift to the world, is for you to shine brightly and to be yourself. Without the limiting stories. I mean, if you want your limiting stories, sure, you can just have them on the side and see it as a story. But no longer identify with your limited stories. And remember, whatever you identify with is what you will become, what you will experience, how you will create in this world. So that's what I have for you, pile number 1. I thought it's a beautiful message. Incidentally, if you need help, if you're inclined to connect with me and my team, I would be more than honored to point you in the right direction. All right, so let's move on to pile number 2. All right, pile number 2, let's see what's calling your attention right now. Fusion and magic. So the number 55 to me represents changes. As I said, we're going through changes already. As a collective, no doubt, you're going through your own unique changes. But the kind of changes that I am talking about with you, in particular, pile number 2, has to do with integration. It's integrating your polarities. We live in a world of polarity. And when we live in one polarity, we don't have the benefit of the other. And what we are seeking as humanity, as consciousness, we're seeking to experience higher vibration. When we begin to integrate our shadows, when we begin to integrate our polarities, it is when we start to become more of a unified being. A unified being lives in union with him or herself, which is the opposite of living in resistance. Okay? So you might be experiencing a lot of resistance right now, pile number 2. And this resistance may be showing up in different areas of your life. For some of you, you are either resisting being in a relationship, or you are resisting letting go of a relationship. Now, if you know that it's something that you need to let go of because you want a different experience, and you are experiencing a lot of resistance, what it's basically happening is that the resistance is saying to you there is some fear. Okay? So acknowledge the resistance. Don't pretend it's not there, because it's a valuable piece of information. And just your job is to tune into this resistance, and there's various ways of doing that, and ask it what it needs. What is it? Hey, resistance, what are you trying to show me? Oh, don't go there. That's a terrible idea. Well, why is it a terrible idea? Oh, you're going to get hurt. or whatever version of story you want to have. So pile number 2, what's calling your attention right now is facing your own resistance, whatever it is that you are resistant to right now. And the more we resist, the harder it gets. Now, some resistance is good, like resistance training, but if you've ever trained with weights, you know, it's a little bit painful, right? It can be. Okay, so your job, pile number 1, is to face your own resistance by understanding what the resistance is, why is it there, what is its purpose, okay? And the resistance is tied to an identity you hold about yourself. There's something that you believe about yourself that's causing this resistance. And this resistance is trying to prevent you from being more. In other words, you are holding on to a story that says you should be less than. Now, that doesn't make sense logically, does it? Because we're not talking about logic here. It's an emotional component. It's tied to some sort of story. So it'll be different things for different people. The main focus for you, pile number 2, is to notice if there's anything that you are resisting in your life right now. I just heard it's complicated. Okay, perhaps you're in a situation that's very complicated and you're resisting the complication. Whatever it is, do yourself a favor. Look at the resistance, because it has valuable information. Okay? By facing this resistance, which is most likely tied or rooted in fear, you're going to be able to eventually work through this fear and come out on the other side of this fear. What is on the other side of fear? Freedom. Pile number 2, you are in the process of freeing yourself, and your ego is deathly afraid of it because you identify with your ego. You give your ego energy. The reason why your ego exists is because you give it power. So when you let go of holding on to a fear, you are removing power from your fear, and that power is available to experience something else, to experience more freedom. So you're actually in a process of freeing yourself, which has its ups and downs as we go through it. Okay? They're giving me an example, a metaphor that I use quite often, and it's been well documented that those who have been imprisoned, more than 50% go back upon being released. So when they're released into freedom, more than half go back. They find a way to just go back. They don't know what to do with freedom. It's very scary. You know, when you have freedom, you get to make your own choices. You get to make your own decisions. When you are free, you are the one deciding how to live your life. Now, if you've lived your life from the perspective of others deciding your life, including your fear deciding your life for you, all of a sudden releasing that can be very scary, because you literally don't know how to live. Very powerful message. Listen. Okay. Let me just tune in here. Listen to your story. Don't judge your story. Okay? Stories are not permanent. You can change your story at any time. It's only permanent when we hold on to it, when it's energetically charged. When you remove an energetic charge out of an old story, you are effectively releasing yourself from identifying with your old story. Your job right now, pile number 2, is pay attention to what your story is. Pay attention to your internal dialogue. Pay a special attention to how you see yourself relative to other people. Do you judge yourself? Do you criticize yourself based on what you see in other people? Do you qualify yourself based on other people? When you begin to tune into your own story, when you begin to see your own limiting story, you will then be able to see how you create your world. Because your story, when you identify with your story, that story will help you shape your external world. If your story says, I am not significant or I am insignificant, and you embody that story, you hold on to that story, then you will be creating life from the space of insignificance. Insignificant is less than significant. That's a polarity. How could you be insignificant when you are part of this cosmic, whatever it is? How can you be less than? You're part of it. How can you be less than when you are part of consciousness itself? All that is, some call it God. It's not a thing. It's a figment of your imagination. What if I was told that I was less than? Well, that just proves you were told and you accepted it, wasn't conscious, and then it became your truth. Do you want it? The question isn't, how you arrived at it. I mean, yes, it's a good piece of information to have. The more important question is, do I still want to perceive myself through my limiting story? Because as long as I perceive myself, as long as I see myself through the limited story, it's going to distort how I see myself and how I see the world. And you will be living from a space of distortion. Okay? Let me see if there's anything else. Listen more, speak less. Perhaps you are someone who, when you have a conversation with somebody, you are not really listening, but what you are doing is you are building up your case so that you can almost like protect yourself. Defensive, thank you. Are you someone who tends to be defensive, who tends to get defensive when somebody's saying to you something that you don't like? If you identify with being defensive, then that means that on some level you feel like you have to defend yourself. The question is why? Why do you need to defend yourself? I'm not talking about being attacked by somebody. Of course you want to defend yourself. That's not what I'm talking about. If someone is being defensive, you've seen someone who's defensive. I'm sure you have. They have a certain dialogue that's going inside of them that says, I need to protect myself. I need to push back. I need to protect myself. Pile number 2, do you push people away? If so, why? Now, sometimes you want to push people away if they're not serving you, but this is not that. This is in relationships. Do you find that sometimes you push people away because you don't want them to see you? Now, everyone wants to be seen. Okay? Why wouldn't you want to be seen? The only reason why you wouldn't want to be seen is if you saw yourself as less than or insignificant, and you would be afraid that others would see you the same way. When reality is, others may not see you the same way. In fact, they probably see a lot more of you than you see about yourself, because they're not living inside of your story. You are. Okay? Pay attention to what the world is trying to tell you right now. Listen. Talk less. Listen. If there is something being said to you and it triggers a certain chord inside of you, then you might want to ask yourself this question: what am I hearing? What am I hearing that's triggering something in me? Because what it's triggering is a certain truth. Okay? Another message that's coming in is magnify your abilities. Don't reduce your own abilities. Now, my logical mind goes to, why on earth would you want to reduce your abilities? How does that make any sense? Well, for one, if you felt or you believed that you were insignificant, you are going to limit your abilities. Each and every one of you is born with certain abilities, and then you cultivate certain abilities as you go through life. Your abilities help other people, okay? Therefore, if you limit your own abilities, you are not as helpful to other people. Yes, that's true, but there's something bigger. You're not as, I don't know how to say it. When you limit when you limit yourself, the whole world suffers. Now, I am not saying that you are responsible for the world's suffering. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that when you limit yourself, you don't get the best of you for you. And therefore, the whole world loses out on it as well. Okay? Because you're here to share. You're here to share of yourself. When you limit yourself, you are not sharing as much as you could. And you are a beautiful being. You are a being of light. Light is meant to be shared, not held back. Pile number 2, how do you hold yourself back? What's holding you back? It's not so much what's holding you back, it's how do you hold yourself back? And you will be able to sort of see it by tuning in and listening to your own dialogue. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, this is not for me. Oh, they'll never want me. Oh, I'm going to get rejected. We all have it. We all have these stories. Ego is very prominent in talking like that. Your job is to realize that you are not your story. And if you desire to, take the necessary steps to move out of your limiting story so that you can embody so much more. And then the rest of the world will benefit. So no pressure. This is not meant to be a pressure. You're not here to save the world. Don't get me wrong. You're here to support the world in its transition. The more you give of your light, the more you are of support in this human transition, in this human experience transition. On the other hand, when you hold yourself back, you're not as potent of a facilitator, and you are a facilitator of change. You facilitate change. How? First and foremost, by shifting how you see you, which will create profound change in how you see the world. How you see the world will be relative to what you create in the world. If you see the world as a dangerous place, you will create based on that assumption. You'll hold yourself back. On the other hand, if you see the world as a place to experience, I'm going to use the term magic. I'm just going to leave it at that. You're here to experience magic. You're here to experience transformation. You're here to understand the process of transformation so that you can transform yourself, and thereby, by understanding how you transform yourself, help others transform their lives too, if they want to. If they want to. It is not your responsibility to transform somebody else's life, but it is your responsibility to transform your life if you want to. It's not a must. It's only if you want to. Last but not least, remember the little things. Let me just look at this. Pay attention to details. Sometimes we pay too much attention to details and we get lost in the details. For you, though, pile number 2, is pay attention to small details, because small details right now can become big things in the future. I'm just trying to see if they can give me an example. this is just an example they're giving me. Let's say you have a contract, and this is an important contract, and you forget to sign it. And then you think you've signed the contract, there's contracts are there for a reason. And then down the road, you need to deal with something, and you pull out the contract and you realize, oh crap, I didn't sign it. And therefore the contract is ineffective. So what seems to be a small detail of, what's a signature, ends up being a big deal down the road. So I don't know what this is for. For some of you, it's around buying a car or buying a vehicle. Make sure this is more practical, make sure that you read the fine print. Now, I've purchased vehicles before, and it's like, oh, okay, you need a lawyer to read this. If you don't understand what's being said and what's being written, it's your responsibility to ask. Ask the right questions. Make sure you receive adequate answer that is satisfactory to you. And based on those answers, you make your choice and your decision. Don't make any choices or decisions blindly. Okay? That doesn't mean don't trust. It doesn't mean that. Just don't make your choices and decisions blindly. Why? Because you want to be in charge of your own life. If you make decisions blindly, you're not really in charge of your life. And I believe you want more of that. Okay? You are also in some sort of decision-making process where you are solidifying a new future for yourself. And you want to make sure, just like when you build a house, you want to make sure that the foundation is strong and firm. It's in the same way with your life. You want to make sure that your own inner foundation is strong and can withhold and withstand all the things you want to create for yourself, because you are wanting to create big, and I hope you do. Please create big, not small, create big. Everyone benefits. But if your inner foundation is not strong enough to support the bigness, then what's going to happen is it's going to crash. We don't want that. So your job right now, pile number 2, is to solidify a very strong foundation within your own being, which speaks to your shadows, your perceived limitations, and the stories you tell yourself that are of limiting nature, because that's part of your foundation. Okay? So I see you as someone who's changing direction in life. So you are likely moving into different waters. You're moving towards a different experience, and part of this change involves you looking at the core of who you are and decide to be more than what you identified yourself as up until this point. Okay? Again, if this resonates with you and if you have no clue how to go about it, you can connect with me and my guides, and I will be beyond honored to help you, quote unquote, figure that out. But it has nothing to do with the head, actually. So that's what I have for you, pile number 2. Very powerful message. All right, pile number 3, let's see what we have for you. The first 2 messages were very powerful. What is calling your attention right now? What's your calling right now? We actually have 2 cards. One is the delusion of control, haha, and one is embracing family. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about this one here, embracing family fear, family first. You have some familial shadows that are holding you back with respect to earning money. I have no idea where that comes from, but that's what I'm saying. It's a familial. In other words, it has been your part of your foundation, inner foundation, for generations. Okay, what you are seeking from your experience is more, but you are operating under the assumption that there is lack. Okay, so you have to look at your own lack belief systems, particularly when it comes to earning money and being cared for, whether it's by somebody, by being cared for. There's a fear here presented that you don't believe that someone will be there to care for you. And that's a story, okay? Or something will not be there to care for you, or that the universe is not going to support you. Or what do you mean universe supports me? The universe never supports me. I'm not that. Those are your stories, okay? That's one of the stories. The second one is the delusion of control, which comes up a lot. You are controlling yourself out of happiness. You are so in control that you control yourself out of your own happiness. In over 20 years of working with shadows, clinical hypnotherapy, inner child work, higher consciousness, I'll tell you one thing that's been very consistent. Control is always tied or rooted in fear. If you are someone who is over-controlling or tries to over-control everything, that is an issue of safety. Okay, so somewhere deep inside of you, you don't feel safe, and as a result of that, you have this immense need to control. Okay, I'm not saying let go of all control. That's not what we want. But when control is overused, it means that there is some fear. There is some safety fear there. Perhaps your own mother didn't feel safe the moment she brought you into this world. Okay? Perhaps she didn't feel safe in her own body, in her own environment, when she was carrying you in her womb. So if that's the case for you, her own unsafety reasons where you basically embodied them as part of being energetically connected to her. So some of your control stuff or the need to control is not even yours. It likely belongs to your mother. Now, this is not a blame. This is just identifying for some of you where this need for high control might be coming from. Now, you may not have seen this about your mom, although that would be very rare. You would generally pick that up. I have one of my parents who falls into that category, if I can say it that way, where this person feels tremendous need for control. And the reason for that is that that person underneath the control feels very powerless. So if you have a high need for control, then that speaks to an issue of safety and a fear of powerlessness. Perhaps you don't believe yourself to be powerful. Here's how I'm going to say it to you. You are so powerful that you are choosing to identify yourself as someone who is not powerful. That's how powerful you are. Except you're not choosing it consciously. It's part of your contract. Okay? So part of your contract in this lifetime is to let go of the need to over-control. That doesn't mean you can't be assertive. In fact, I want you to be assertive. Controlling, assertive, two different things. You want to be sure of yourself, which speaks to safety, without the need to over-control everything, because that goes from unsafety. Okay? So delusion of control and embracing family. Solar plexus, pile number 3. When you have challenges with control, it will often affect your abdomen. It's because it's tied to the fear of powerlessness. So you might be stressing about something a lot, but that's actually showing you that you might be feeling powerless in a situation. Now, of course, I'm not talking about a situation where, somebody jumps you and you feel powerless because then they're 10 times as big as you. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, emotionally, life situation where the feeling of powerlessness is something that is deep within your being, and you identifying with it robs you of your life. It certainly robs you of your potential. For a number of you, this will be less, the number will be less, is the fear of not having control, which is similar but not the same. You might be fearful, you might have a fear of not having control. Perhaps someone was in control over you too much and you felt you had no control. And for some of you, this may be the reason why you hold distance with other people. You emotionally keep a distance from other people because you don't want to be controlled by them. Okay? So safety and powerlessness is being indicated. Pile number 3. My apologies. Gather your tribe. Okay, so the first thing I'm being drawn to is the owl, which stems from wisdom. Okay. There's a lot of symbology going on here. Let me just look. There's a lot of symbology. This being, as it appears to me, feels very wise. I believe it's a she. She has gone through a lot, and because of what she has gone through, she learned a lot, and she's in a space where that learning and the understanding can be put to practice in a way that allows her to raise her own vibration. So you are in the process of raising your own vibration. Obviously, you can look at the totem of the bear, which is a very, very powerful animal symbology. Strength is one of those, I believe. There's many others, but strength is one of those. And even though I don't see a bird here, there's almost like an angelic quality. That's what's coming to me. What does that mean? It means that you are likely connected to the angelic realm. Okay. If you believe in angels, great. But this is more than just believing. This is having direct access to angelic realm. And that's not a small thing. I believe we all have it. We all have access to it. But some people are born with the ability to have this access come to them in easier ways. And this angelic realm is here to support you so that you can help others and support them in their own journey of feeling and being safe. But you cannot do that from within your own unsafety. Okay? So pile number 3, whoever you are rising to the occasion so that you can be the best version of yourself, the strong, unlimited version of yourself, wise version of yourself, so that you can help others do the same in their life if they choose to. So I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say you are likely someone who either identify yourself with being a teacher, or you have this a teacher quality. But when I say teacher, you actually may be a teacher, but no, this is more, you're here to gather information from your experiences and use it as a way of helping others see their own truth and see what they're capable of. But again, the only way you will be able to do that is if you go through your own transition, through your own transformation, which is what you are going through right now. And this transition and this transformation or change is going to allow you to have a much higher perspective of yourself and the world, which means you will start to see things differently. And from that perspective, you're going to be able to engage the world and people in a different way, in a very unique way to you. Okay, so you obviously have something to share with people, wisdom, knowledge, understanding. And wisdom is something that comes from knowledge experienced. In order for you to have wisdom, you have to have had experiences. So I feel like pile number 3, you're looking back and you're gathering information in terms of what life has presented to you and how you identified with it, and then coming to the realization that what you have identified yourself as is not who you are. In fact, that is the purpose as to why you are here on this earth. To help people identify less with their stories, less with their lack, less with their ego, and to help them embody more of their higher wisdom. That's when the world begins to change. Again, similar to pile number 2, but different. That is not to say that you are here to change the world. Please don't do that. Don't change the world. Become the change that you are seeking. In fact, you cannot change a person. Person has to decide to change for themselves. If they don't, they're not engaged, which means they're not going to benefit from whatever you're trying to give them. Also, don't try to control somebody else's outcome. Every individual has to decide what they want their outcome to be. And everyone has the right to decide what that is for them. I want to say, I don't know who this is for, but I want to say, stay away from preaching. You're not here to be a preacher. So maybe you are someone who, preaches a lot. What I want to say to you is this, and this is not saying, oh, you're doing something wrong. It's right and wrong is I don't do that when I'm doing these transmissions. There's no right or wrong. It's a more effective way to help someone change their life is to be an example. So rather than preaching, show up the way you want to be seen. If you want to be seen as a wise person, show up as the wise person. You have wisdom within you. We all do. If you want to show up as a powerful, empowered person, if you want people to see you as an empowered individual, don't tell them that you have power. Show them. Be that so they can see it. Because when they can see it in you, they can see it in them. Because we're all very powerful. Last but not least, magnetism. What a beautiful card. So you already know that, you likely already know that you experience, or you magnetize to you your experience based on your conditioned beliefs. You already know that, right? On the other hand, if you're trying to achieve something, but you're not in alignment with what that means for you, then you're not going to magnetize that to yourself, at least not very easily. I'm going to give an example that I used, I believe, in pile number 2. If you believe that you are an unworthy person, which is the reason why I use that word unworthy is because majority of humans can identify with it. They may not want to necessarily see it, or they may not want to admit it, but it's so prevalent in our society that it's pretty much everywhere. Okay, it's like a plague. Okay, when you identify with unworthiness, you are going to magnetize to yourself based on that belief, and you will magnetize to yourself experiences that will prove to you that you are not a worthy person. Not because you're unworthy. No, you are certainly worthy. You are part of God. It's because you believe it. And what you believe, what you really believe, what you truly believe, what your truth is, must come true. That's a universal law. Because your experiences are relative, your outside experiences are relative to your inner experiences. Okay? So, pile number 3, looking at your need for control or fear around not having control. Looking at limiting beliefs around being taken care of. potentially around earning a lot of money, being an example to others rather than preaching what should be or shouldn't be. And then looking at your own magnetizing, what's the word I want to use? Your own magnetizing, word escaped me. Looking at your own magnetic field on the inside in order to recognize what beliefs, what truths are you holding on to that are magnetizing certain experiences to you. I'll use the example of money. If you are magnetizing to yourself experience of lacking money, then that means that that lack of money is based on a certain assumption you hold about money as your truth. And as long as you hold onto that limiting truth, the universe cannot force you to have a different experience which you don't believe in, because you're not going to accept it. It's not going to be a conscious or logical thing, but it will be overridden by your unconscious beliefs. And since my work is all about facing your shadows and facing your unconscious beliefs, you are being urged to be conscious how you magnetize to yourself so that you can magnetize more consciously. So if you realize that you hold a certain negative belief around money, for example, or being loved or being supported, and when you effectively deal with the story, when you release the energetic charge that is within that story and you shift your vibration, what happens is that story becomes a distant memory, but it doesn't become a blueprint for the rest of your life. Because you don't want that. Why on earth would you want to be creating from a limited space? Nobody wants that, yet we all do it. That's the nature of ego. Ego is very limited. And my job is to, as you know, or as you remember, is to help you see yourself beyond the illusion of your ego. Because you are more than that. And as you're listening to me, you are experiencing ego. But more than anything, you are likely identifying as ego only. You are more than an ego. You are so much more than an ego. In fact, without you giving your ego power, there's no ego. So in order for your limited ego to be in charge, you constantly have to feed it. You have to constantly give it power. So the more you give power to your limitations, the more you are fueling your limitations. You don't want that. I don't want that for you. The universe doesn't want that for you. The question is, what do you want? Ask yourself, what do you want instead, and what is required of you to create your inner environment so that you can magnetize the very thing that you want. So that's what I'm going to leave with you, pile number 3. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing this energy with me. I would love for you to comment. Let me know how these messages are flowing within you, how you are resonating with them. And I hope you have a fabulous weekend. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your support. Again, Kelly, if you hear me, please know that I've been trying to connect with you every single time you've donated, but it always bounced back. So I just want you at least to hear from this video. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you, each and every one of you, for your support in however way you choose to do it. Whether it's through supporting this channel by clicking yes, commenting, sharing it with a friend, subscribing, however you choose to do it. It all helps me and my team and the collective. So I thank you so much for that. I'm very humbled. And again, I have the greatest job in the world. The greatest job in the world. There's nothing, almost nothing that makes me happier than to see you shift your own perception of yourself and you begin to see yourself for who you really are, which is so much more than your limited identity. So with that said, I will see you soon. Take care.